You spend 20 minutes pulling weeds along the edge of your yard on a warm June afternoon. One of them brushes across your forearm as you yank it out. Nothing sharp, no sting, no itch. You keep gardening for another hour in full sun, then go inside and forget about it completely. 2 days later, your arm looks like you held it against a stove, deep red, swollen, blistering in streaks that follow exactly where your skin brushed the plant. It's not sunburn. The shape is too specific, almost like your own arm left a signature. And it's not poison ivy either, because poison ivy doesn't wait 2 full days to show up, and it definitely doesn't do this. What actually happened to your arm has nothing to do with an allergy. Your immune system was never involved. It's a chemical reaction. And once you understand it, you'll realize it isn't only hiding in that one weed at the edge of your yard. It might already be in your kitchen. The plant is wild parsnip, and here's the first thing that separates it completely from poison ivy. Poison ivy causes an allergic reaction. Your immune system recognizes a compound called urushiol as a threat and overreacts to it, which is also why some people can spend a lifetime around poison ivy and barely react, while others break out from a few seconds of contact. Wild parsnip doesn't work like that. No immune system is involved at all. The sap in its leaves and stems contains a family of chemicals called furanocoumarins, and sitting on your skin in the dark, they do essentially nothing. The moment ultraviolet light hits them, they change, binding directly to the DNA and membranes of your skin cells, and that binding, damages the cells outright, not an allergic response. An actual chemical burn triggered by sunlight, days after the contact that caused it. This isn't a rash spreading outward from an irritated patch of skin. It's damage happening cell by cell in the exact shape of wherever the sap touched you, which is why the marks it leaves often look less like a rash and more like a photograph of the moment your skin met the plant. That's also why there's no such thing as being immune to it. Unlike poison ivy, you don't need a sensitized immune system or a prior exposure to build a reaction against. Every person's skin can burn from this every time if the sap and the sun line up. That delay is the second thing that makes this so different. Poison ivy usually announces itself within a day, sometimes hours. A rash that grows in the places you touched it, close enough in time that most people can trace it back. Wild parsnip burns take 24 to 48 hours to even begin, and they don't peak until the 2nd or 3rd day. By then, you've showered twice, changed clothes, probably forgotten which plant you even brushed against. You don't need to grab a handful of it either. In plenty of documented cases, a single leaf or stem breaking against bare skin for a few seconds is enough. While you're doing something else entirely, pulling a different weed, walking through tall grass, letting a dog off leash near an overgrown patch nobody's mowed. Sweat and heat make the reaction worse, which means a long afternoon of yard work in full sun is close to the ideal setup for a bad burn. Not because you did anything wrong, but because the exact conditions that make gardening pleasant are the same conditions that let this chemical do the most damage. Wild parsnip isn't some rare exotic plant hiding in remote wilderness. It's the same species as the parsnip you'd buy in a grocery store, escaped from cultivation generations ago, and it now grows along roadsides, in ditches, in unmowed fields and pastures across most of the United States. It typically stands 2 to 5 feet tall, with jagged, deeply toothed compound leaves and a ridged, hollow stem, topped with a flat cluster of small yellow flowers. If those flowers were white instead of yellow, you'd likely be looking at one of its relatives instead. A distinction that matters more than it sounds like it should. There's a good chance it's already growing within walking distance of your house, along a fence line, a drainage ditch, or the edge of a field nobody's mowed this year, and you've probably driven or walked past it without a second glance. You don't need to go looking for a rare, dangerous plant. In a lot of places, it's already found you. Here's where this stops being a story about your yard and becomes a story about your kitchen. Wild parsnip belongs to a plant family that also includes celery, parsley, fennel, and limes. The same phyranocoumarins show up in citrus peel and juice, concentrated enough that dermatologists have published real case reports on the burn that follows a sunny afternoon spent squeezing limes. Streaked, blistering marks on otherwise healthy adults' hands, days after a completely ordinary round of drinks. It even has its own name, margarita dermatitis. It follows the identical pattern. Someone juices limes for a pitcher on their own patio, gets a little juice on their hands, wipes it somewhere else on their skin without thinking about it, and spends the rest of the afternoon in the sun. 2 days later, they've got the same streaked, blistering burn as anyone who pulled a weed along a ditch, except this one came out of their own refrigerator, not a field. You don't need a hike through overgrown grass to end up with this. A pitcher of margaritas on your own patio is enough. The danger isn't actually the plant, it's the timing. Wild parsnip can brush against your skin without causing you to feel anything at all. No burning, no sting, nothing that tells you you've just been exposed. The reaction begins only later, after ultraviolet light from the sun reaches the chemicals left on your skin. It's called phytophotodermatitis, literally a plant and light skin reaction. The sunlight doesn't simply irritate the skin. The compounds from the plant bind to your skin cells, and ultraviolet light activates them, damaging the DNA inside those cells. Hours later, the redness begins. Then the blisters. Often by the next day, people have no idea what actually caused them. They remember mowing the lawn, walking the dog, pulling weeds. The painful burn seems to appear out of nowhere, but the real mistake happened much earlier, when the plant touched their skin without them ever noticing it. Even the ordinary version, plain wild parsnip, no hogweed involved, leaves something behind that most burns don't. The blisters themselves can take more than a week to heal, and doctors generally recommend leaving that blistered skin intact rather than draining it, since it protects the raw tissue underneath while it recovers. Once it does heal, the skin is often left with a dark red or brown discoloration, tracing the exact same streaks and shapes as the original burn. That discoloration, and the sun sensitivity that comes with it, can last up to 2 years, so a single afternoon of yard work in June can leave a mark on your arm that's still visible the following summer, and still reacts a little more strongly to sunlight than the skin around it, long after you've completely forgotten how it got there. None of this means avoiding your own yard for the rest of the summer. It means knowing what you're looking at and changing one habit. If you're pulling weeds, clearing a ditch line, or mowing a rough patch, and you're not sure what you're touching, cover up. Long sleeves, gloves, instead of going in bare-armed. If sap does get on your skin, wash the area with soap and water as soon as you can, and stay out of direct sun on that spot for the next 2 days. That single window is the only thing standing between a little sap on your arm and a burn that lasts into next summer. It's part of why some people who deal with overgrown brush regularly do the heaviest work in the evening instead, planning their whole day around a chemical reaction they can't even see happening yet. That first afternoon in the garden, the one where nothing seemed to happen, that was never actually nothing. It was step 1 of a 2-day reaction already running, invisible, waiting for exactly the kind of sunny afternoon you'd normally call a good day outside. By the time your arm told you something was wrong, the plant had already finished its part almost 2 days earlier. Yours was only just getting started. Subscribe to Hidden Nature, because some of nature's greatest mysteries aren't hidden in distant forests. They're unfolding quietly, just outside your door.